he was rather transparent, you know. He was rather transparent. I hadn't seen him for a long time, and you know, he wasn't the captain of the boat.
So he wasn't the captain of the boat. So that means you were responsible for your crew, right? Every captain is responsible for its crew, or the person who is in charge of the boat. So that means you're the one responsible for letting her die or disappearing or whatever happened. But because you were the last person with her, last person that saw her, and the ordeal you made, like breaking that bottle and making that scene, let's listen to that.
Me, what she should do and how she should behave. I said, why don't you just, you know, don't tell her what to do and stay out of her life. And I picked up the bottle and smashed it on the table. And, you know, I was really, you know, angry.
Natasha.
This was really like a drama queen. Yeah, it just confirms what he did.
To Catalina on the dinghy, and we had some more drinks over dinner. By this time, we had had slightly too much to drink, and things were getting combative. When I suggested moving the Splendor closer to shore to avoid having to ride out the swells, Natalie gave me an argument, and I gave her an argument right back. She got angry and told Dennis Davern, who took care of the Splendor for us, to take her to Avalon in the dinghy. She spent the night at the Pavilion Lodge. Chris just shrugged and went below to his cabin. I secured the boat and went to sleep myself. The next morning, Natalie came back to the boat, and everything was fine. She cooked breakfast for Walken and me on the Splendor, and I again suggested moving the boat to calmer waters. This time she had no problem with it. By 1 p.m., we were anchored offshore at the Isthmus Cove on the northern end of the island, which is far more isolated than the southern end. A little while after that, everybody took a nap. When I woke up, I found a note from Natalie saying that she and Chris had taken the dinghy and gone to the island. They went to Doug's Harbor Reef for about 2 hours. I wasn't angry, but I was agitated. I called the shore boat and joined them. It would be fair to say that I was upset, but not so much that I let on. We stayed at Doug's for dinner, finally leaving for the Splendor around 10 o'clock. Again, we had quite a bit of wine with dinner, but I would categorize our condition as tipsy. Certainly nobody was anywhere near drunk. We got back to the salon of the Splendor and had some more drinks. And it was at this point that I got pissed off. Chris began talking about his total pursuit of a career, which he admitted was more important to him than his personal life. He clearly thought that Natalie should live like that too, which rather neatly overlooked the fact that she was a mother of 3 small children. He also said it was obvious that I didn't share his point of view, which was an understatement. I finally had had enough. Why the fuck don't you stay out of her career, I said. She's got enough people telling her what to do without you.
So nice.
Walken and I got into an argument. At one point I picked up a wine bottle, slammed it on the table, and broke it into pieces. Natalie was already below decks at that point. She had gotten up during our argument. She didn't rush out. She just got up and went down the 3 steps from the salon of the boat to the master cabin to go to the bathroom. The last time I saw my wife, she was fixing her hair in the bathroom while I was arguing with Chris Walken. I saw her shut the door. She was going to bed. By the nature of the disagreement, it was a circular argument, and the fact that neither of us was feeling any pain made it harder to break the circle. About 15 minutes after Natalie closed the door, Chris and I moved from the salon up the 3 steps that led out onto the deck. If I had to categorize the emotional temperature, I would say that things were threatening to get physical. But the fact is that they never did. After some minutes on the deck, the fresh air helped calm us down, and we came back into the salon and sat there for a while, but not long. At this point, everything was fine between us. Then Chris went to bed, I sat up for a while with Dennis Davern, and then it was time to go to bed. I went below, and Natalie wasn't there. Strange. I went back up on the deck and looked around for her and noticed the dinghy was gone. Stranger, I remember wondering if she'd taken the dinghy because of the argument, and then I thought, no way, because she was terrified of dark water, and besides that, the dinghy fired up very loudly, and we would have heard it, whether we were in the salon or on deck. On the other hand, if she wasn't on the Splendor, where else could she be except on the dinghy? I found Dennis Davern and I said, I think Natalie took off on the dinghy. At that point, I thought she had gone back to Doug's Harbor Reef, the restaurant where we had had dinner. I radioed for the shore boat and went back to the restaurant. Christopher and Dennis stayed on the Splendor. When I got to the island, the restaurant was closed. Natalie wasn't anywhere around the dock area, nor was the dinghy. By this time, it was about 1:30 a.m. on the morning of November 29th, and I was scared and confused. Dennis radioed for help on the Harbor Channel, which is monitored by the Baywatch, a sort of private coast patrol. Then I called the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard came out to the boat, and they went through the Splendor from top to bottom, from the bilge on up. They checked everything. Then they started search and rescue, which is very difficult at night, crisscrossing the ocean surface with searchlights from Coast Guard helicopters. Hour after hour. Nothing. So, we sat there through the night in the salon, waiting to hear what happened. Chris Walken was there, Dennis Davern was there. Once in a while one of us would go to the bathroom, but there wasn't much conversation because the only possible subject was Natalie, and nobody knew anything. I kept running the possibilities through my mind, and there weren't many. She could have taken the dinghy to a cove someplace, and the engine could have gone dead. But why hadn't any of us heard the engine start? As for the other possibility, I knew what it was, but I didn't allow myself to contemplate it. Aft, there was one step down to the dinghy, the only way on and off the boat when you were at sea. The step, which we called the swim step, was near the waterline and could be very slippery. In the morning, about 5:30 a.m., they found the Valiant in an isolated cove beyond Blue Cavern Point. The key was in the off position, the gear was in neutral, and the oars were fastened to the side. They radioed and told us that they had the dinghy, but Natalie wasn't on it. We had just run out of options, but I didn't allow myself to actually contemplate what that meant. It was too unthinkable. 2 hours later, they found my wife. Natalie was wearing a down-filled red Parker windbreaker, and that helped them spot her. The harbor master, Doug Bombard, was the one who got her out of the water, and he was the one who came onto the Splendor and looked at me. I remember that the morning was sunny. I remember that I was standing on the aft deck when Doug pulled up and got out of his boat. "Where is she?" I asked him. Doug looked at me. "She's dead, RJ." My knees went out. Everything went away from me. Soon afterward, a helicopter came and took us to the mainland. So many of the best times of my life had been spent in and around Catalina Island. It was always one of my favorite places on Earth. From the day Natalie died to this, I have never gone back. I never saw Natalie dead. Not at the morgue, not at the funeral home. I wanted to remember her alive.
So, that was some swearing there, which I never heard him before, and really upset me and disappointed me big time. I thought he was a real gentleman, but I don't believe that anymore. And the things he says, a lot of this doesn't make sense. I mean, if you get tipsy and so angry to smash a bottle in front of everybody, that's such a scene. I just cannot even imagine that. And if he was that good of a person, a gentleman, he would have never broke a bottle in front of everybody. I mean, when the glass bottle shatters, it could have hurt somebody there, especially your wife, you know, the love of your life. It's just crazy. It doesn't make sense. And so he just tells these things, and because of the power he had, You know, he knew Frank Sinatra was his great friend. Even what was the president's name? Not Roosevelt, it was the other one. Reagan, yes, Reagan was another of his best friends, and at the time he was the president, so he had deep connections, so he could make this whole ordeal, you know, just go underneath the radar, and that's what happened. So he was definitely responsible. What most probably what happened, they got in a really bad fight, and he was just so angry he threw her into the water. Maybe she was a bit unconscious, or she went into the water and she hurt herself trying to get up onto the dinghy, and that's why people heard her screaming in the distance. There was some people who heard her, but she probably went unconscious, and who knows, she just drowned. And yes, that's what really happened. That's what most probably happened. But even if this somehow didn't happen, he was responsible for her death, because he said Dennis Davern wasn't the captain of the boat. So who was the captain of the boat? Somebody had to be responsible for the boat, and you're responsible for your people on the boat, especially if you're a wife. Definitely you were responsible for her, RJ. So you should really come clean. You should tell the truth. Have courage to come out and tell the truth, everybody, you know, to yourself. You just owe this to everybody. So this is your time to be a gentleman. It's no good trying to look like a gentleman and then you know, act like swearing and doing all this stuff that is really shady, and it's just not right. You know, you've been my role model for decades now, and I'm deeply disappointed in you. This just doesn't sound right. The words you were saying here are really bad. This swearing is terrible.
Warren Beatty really came into the picture after she left the house. That summer, when I read about the two of them as the hot young couple around town, I wanted to kill that son of a bitch.
Horrible. Wow.
One thing I did not want to have happen was have him move into my life and break up my marriage. That was the absolute bottom. I felt as if the ground I'd been standing on was being systematically cut from beneath me. I was also totally humiliated in a way I've never felt before, and thank God I've never felt since. Life magazine was calling Beatty the most exciting American male in the movies, and my last 4 or 5 pictures had been flops. How would you feel?
Humiliated. I would be so jealous.
After their affair made the papers, just after Dorothy Kilgallen wrote, "The way Natalie Wood and Warren Beatty are carrying on, it's a wonder they have time to eat," I was hanging around outside his house with a gun,
Jesus,
hoping he would walk out.
Wow.
I not only wanted to kill him, I was prepared to kill him.
So what else do you need? I mean, he is saying this in a video, in a audiobook, that he wanted to kill somebody because of the jealousy, and then in his second marriage to the same lady, he gets so upset, in another jealousy rage, that he breaks the bottle in front of everybody, and even says that he nearly got physical with that person, and then a lady disappears. So isn't this enough for the police? I mean, to me this is extremely suspicious. 100% alarm bells. To me, he is the main person who is responsible. It's nobody else. I mean, this is so obvious. What else? He says this is his words. Nobody made this up. It's crazy.
It's important to me, Daddy, that people think of you the way I know that you are. And it bothers me that anyone would ever think that you would be involved in what happened to her. Because you would have given your life for my mom.
And that's true, I would have.
And he mumbles away. Yeah, I would, and looks down. He should have said, yes, dear daughter, yes, I would have given my life for your mom or for my wife, but not the way he answers. So it's all there. Police, come on, you do this investigation better. You're just not doing the right thing. He's responsible. That's 100%. This is a video clip from 1992. You can also find it here on YouTube. It says Justice for Natalie Wood. And so you can hear what they said. They didn't know they were filmed. And this is Dennis Davern, the kind of skipper of the boat, and Marti Rulli is the woman that wrote the book, and they're obviously trying to make money out of this.
We have to say how she's gotten away with her daddy. Saying it right, but saying it to protect ourselves too.
Yeah.
Maybe she got him into this.
I know, Daddy.
I don't want to say, well.
You know, I know. Where'd Carol go? What'd she go with them for?
I think she's talking to you.
Good, I think she should. Because they're going to use this no matter what, Gunny. So we could walk out of here right now and they'll still put the show on and we didn't say.
I don't want to tell them she got it.
Don't you tell me I've forgotten it. When we put that in a book and we make billions from it.
Billions.
Tell them.
I just can't do that.
Yeah, we're here to promote a book, not to give away our book.
We can't.
He said he knows she wouldn't step into the thing.
We can't tell them that. If we tell them that, then what is there? What do we have left? We don't have nothing.
Yes, this is unfortunately the truth. Maybe Marti Rulli, she doesn't seem like a good person. Maybe she got Dennis talked into making the book. Probably both needed money. But I still think for some reason Dennis is a genuine person. He seems plausible. Most of everybody in this case.